in the chat your name and your company so we can see who has joined us today. Also, if you have questions, please put those in the chat and we will answer them at the very end. So we want to welcome Martin DeWitt, who is going to be presenting today. He is the Senior Area Manager with the SBA in Billings, Montana. Martin helps to optimize the deployment of SBA products and programs throughout his service area while assisting the local small business community. He has been assisting small businesses for over 18 years through his work as a loan officer, nonprofit executive director, business program specialist, and his current position. Prior to SBA, Martin served as the area specialist for USDA Rural Development over the past 4 years. Before his time with USDA, Martin was the executive director for Great Northern Development Corporation for 3 years and 6 years as their loan officer. Martin believes these positions have helped him cultivate and develop relationships that assisted in creating economic opportunity and improve the development of small businesses throughout Montana. This has deepened his understanding of the need and importance for delivering financial programs that foster and improve opportunities for small businesses in Montana. And Martin is an enrolled member of the Little Shell Chippewa tribe. He was born and raised in Wolf Point, Montana, and learned the value of work ethic on the family farm. After high school, he chose to serve his country and enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and was stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. This is where he and his wife, Melissa, began their life together and creating their 4 children, Alex, Matthew, Maximus, and Ava. They now have their time occupied following the kids' adventures in dance, music, wrestling, and football. Let's welcome Martin DeWitt.
Thanks, Lillian. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Always like to say you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, right? So, and as Lillian said, we're going to be covering our mentor protege program, given some kind of highlights, some program benefits with that, and what that kind of means for you. We're also going to, I've got a few slides on our joint venture portion as well that relate back to the mentor protege. I'm going to kind of zip through a couple of those for you as well. Everybody that's on here, you've developed a relationship with your Apex Accelerator. So you're already doing some of the right things there. You're making connections with the correct people. So, and those relationships, that's probably one of the most beneficial thing to the success of your business and what you're trying to move forward with. So with that, we will get into our slides here and the presentation that we got. So again, this is building capacity for the mentor protege program. The SB, one of those things is really determining if the program is a right fit for you. One of the things with this is everyone needs to recognize that this program is not a matchmaking program. You already have to have that mentor identified as someone that your business is willing to work with, and SBA isn't there to go out and seek out and find those mentors for you. So it's not that type of a matchmaking event. It's a program for you to help cultivate those existing relationships so that you can move forward and advance your opportunities within our 8A program through the Mentor Protege program. So we want to talk about some of the mentor requirements, some of the protege requirements in here as well, and really what that's going to take. And keep skipping back here. what limitations there are within the program that we have. There's some required training that you have to go through as well. NAICS codes, joint venture requirements. So making sure that your NAICS code that your business meets the size standard of your NAICS code, and what those requirements are that we'll get into later with the on the joint venture side of things. So the purpose of our program is really to enhance an opportunity for those businesses to take advantage of contracting opportunities and utilize those. So some improvements that SBA has made in the past couple of years to the program. There used to be 2 programs. There was a mentor protege and an all small mentor protege program. What they've done is combine those 2 programs, which really removes the need for the businesses to choose between either one of the programs. And given their identical purposes, the participating businesses, the merger makes it a lot easier. It's time saving, a lot of those things, and it streamlines the program while keeping the same benefits as the 2 former programs. And it also requires less involvement from SBA for joint ventures, which less involvement from us is probably always good, because we like to get into the way of things sometimes. As government, it makes things a little more complicated sometimes, but our Montana staff tries to help bring down those barriers and make things as simple as possible as we can for you. So beyond merging those programs, the mentor protege program is within our code. We have updated tools to participate in the program, and so getting into program benefits and what it's about. Some of the program benefits are that there's guidance on the internal business management systems, accounting, manufacturing, strategic planning. We offer financial assistance in the form, or there's financial assistance in the form of equity investment with this, is working with your mentor in this program. There's opportunity for assistance in navigating federal contract bidding, acquisitions, and the federal procurement process. So when you're working with a mentor that's already been through that process and having their understanding of that while you're trying to learn that process, working through that is a high program benefit. And then there's some opportunity there with international trade, strategic planning, finding markets and identifying them, because as we hear a lot of times from our firms that we have working with us, is just being able to get in front of that contracting officer, developing those relationships. That can be one of the most difficult things for them, is finding out where they need to be, getting in front of a contracting officer, developing a relationship that actually turns into creating contracts. And then obviously with that comes like business development, and having a mentor that's been through the program. They have administrative assistance. They may have human resources that your firm doesn't have. They may have a clearance support if you're going after contracts that require that clearance requirement. So that is an opportunity that's out there with that as well. So that's kind of overview of what some of the benefits are, what the purpose is of the program, and what the potential can be for that. So eligibility requirements, right? So obviously, we're the Small Business Administration. Number 1 requirement, you must be a small business with industry experience. So industry experience requires going back a couple years. You got to have a few years of experience within your NAICS code of what you're doing with your business. You have to have a proposed mentor prior to applying as well. So as I said before, we're not a matchmaking agency for this. You have to have that mentor identified, have those documents written up before entering into the program. You must be organized as a for-profit or as an agricultural cooperative to be eligible for the program, and generally have no more than 2 mentors in a business's lifetime. So not something you're going to continually get back into. It's the intent of the program for that protege is that they utilize that mentor to develop those relationships, grow their business so that they can successfully manage going after contracts on their own in the future. So as a mentor, again, the firm must be a for-profit or an agricultural cooperative. It must be able to carry out the responsibilities to assist that protege. And of course, they can't be in trouble with federal government either. They cannot appear on the federal list of debarred or suspended contractors, and possesses good character and have no more than 3 proteges at a time. So they can be working with multiple ones. That's maybe one of those questions that as you're entering that relationship, something to visit with to see what their experience is of working with proteges, and maybe how spread out they are with them, and if they have the capacity to take you on if you are that protege seeking a mentor. So some program benefits, again, for proteges and mentors. Again, there's valuable assistance from the mentor in a lot of areas. So that technical and management assistance, so the technical side of things of how to go in, how to meet with those contracting officers, being prepared, having your items ready to go when you're going after those contracts, making sure that all of your financial documents are in order, everything that you need in order to apply for contracts. Another area can be financing in the form of equity investments and or loans, where they can work with you as a protege, with them being a mentor and having success in getting government contracts previously. Obviously, they've developed their business into a point where they may be able to offer some form of financial assistance in one of those areas. Again, getting into the international trade, and that's through relationships and time that mentor has had in the program, to be able to have those relationships and be able to expand your goods or services out into an international trade market. And then just the government contracting, as I said, that's one of the big things is getting in front of contracting officers, developing relationships, and actually successfully procuring those contracts. So, and then as a mentor, if we've got any of those on here, that forming that joint venture with the protege, it allows them to qualify for contracts that they may not typically be able to get because they may not fall into that area, being able to go after some new and different opportunities, expand their NAICS code listings, and be able to bring in new revenue streams for them. Contract evaluation preferences where the mentor and subcontract, significant work has to be done by the protege if authorized by the agency. So your mentor protege agreement, this is something that you'd want to have written up in order to apply for the program and get into it. And so, excuse me, I've had a tough week here this week. Excuse me. So for the SBA to approve this mentor protege agreement, the SBA must determine that the mentor provided assistance and will promote real development and gains for the protege, not just a vehicle to receive federal small set-asides. So that protege or that mentor is really there actually trying to develop that that the mentor is there to really develop the protege, for them to be able to stand up on their own, to be able to move forward with developing their own skills, developing their own business. They're not just in it for those couple benefits, trying to get some of those small business set-asides, really is what that point is. An SBA determination of affiliation must not exist between the mentor and the protege applicant. So there can't be an affiliation. So what that would mean is if there is a like and kind ownership between the mentor and the protege. So if Martin DeWitt owns DeWitt Contracting Services, and then there's another company that Marine United, and I'm a 10% owner in that particular business, that would be an affiliation. So we can't have an affiliation between those. So things to keep in mind. And again, SBA puts this on there. I've been hammered it in. Not a matchmaking program. You got to find each other, and it must be approved by the SBA to participate in the program. So learning more about the program, getting into it, obviously on our website, sba.gov. I'll probably bring that up and share some of the things that are in there with you guys as well. There's some helpful email addresses there to reach out for support, evaluation opportunities, pre-screening, different things like that are available on this slide. And like I said, we're going to just zip through. We're not going to hit all of these joint venture slides, but we're going to hit a couple of them as they relate to the mentor protege program as well. So just real quick though, an overview of those joint ventures. 2 small businesses can form a joint venture. Mentors and proteges can form joint ventures, allowing both parties to compete together for government contracts reserved for small businesses. This gets into all those areas of a 8A, and I'll kind of go through some of the acronyms there because not everybody maybe is versed to those. So socially disadvantaged veteran-owned small business, SDVOSB, woman-owned small business, hub-zone businesses is what those are talking about. Each one has to have their own identification, their unique identifying information code, be registered with SAM, and the protege can enter into a JV with an SBA approved mentor, be eligible for any contract opportunity for which the protege qualifies. So those 2 small businesses can form that joint venture, and there is no need for a mentor protege agreement. And the SBA, this is one of the changes that came, SBA no longer reviews or approves competitive 8A joint ventures. SBA district offices only review and approve 8A sole source joint ventures and related addendums. So Brian's on here with us. He's our guy that gets to go through a lot of that stuff on our district office side of things. He's becoming an expert in that field, as I watch him laugh because I know he thinks the same way I do. Neither one of us are experts in much of anything. We're just here to help find information and work through problems. A few more overviews within this, kind of buzz through these. Those joint venture benefits, again, increasing capacity, collective representation from that past performance of the shared firm, sharing costs and resources, where again one may have an employee background, the other one may have security clearance, right? On how you two can work together to create those opportunities to go after more contracts. Specific to mentors, serving as the mentor in the firm will continue to count towards any subcontracting requirements for them as a mentor, subject to the Small Business Act, Section 8D. The program improvements help proteges see the value of the program. and grow the opportunities for them to do business with the federal government. So some eligibility requirements within this. One, you have to meet the SBA side standards, right? So according to your NAICS code, SBA makes a determination of that size standard based off of either employees or your revenues for your business. And you have to fall within those. So a lot of those, a lot of people always, when they call in, they're like, well, I'm a pretty small business. I've got 25 employees, and and it's like, yeah, according to our standards, you're definitely a small business, and a lot of people think that they have to have 10 or less. That's not always the case, but meeting those standards is a requirement for these programs as well. You have to have the financial capacity as well to enter these agreements on both sides. Both businesses have to meet that. You have to be able to show that past performance, as we kind of discussed earlier. Those defined roles have to be written out in what is required. And you have to maintain your records and reporting for claiming what each one is doing, which parts of those contracts are being taken care of, and then who has the management over that joint venture as well, what that looks like. And that's the last main one. So these are how to set up joint ventures. These can be found on our website and what that entails. Can get into the details of that or any questions. Here's kind of an important part: the unlimited contracts over a 2-year period. This is really this program is set up to limit that. So your joint venture is only good for a 2-year period, and then it expires. So, and you'd have to form a new joint venture after that expiration of that joint venture. Regulations.
Martin?
Yes, sir.
Can I jump in real quick? Can you go back real quick?
Yep. Here.
So that too, I think, sorry to interrupt, but
Oh, you're
I think
good.
Okay. So there's the mentor protege joint venture. And if you go down that path, that's good for 6 years. If you choose just to do a joint venture, not a mentor protege joint venture, that's where this unlimited 2-year period comes in.
Thank you for the clarification. Good catch. All right. Regulations are our favorite things as government employees. Again, some of those requirements that we covered earlier, as far as that joint venture, has to be in writing. Some of the other points, it has to be identified in SAM and do business under its own name. This can be a formal or informal partnership as separate LLCs or another separate entity altogether. If a separate legal entity cannot be populated with contract performing employees, but may have employees to perform administrative functions for the joint venture, including one or more facility security officers. Goes into the 2-year rule again in regards to just the joint venture side of things, but more on the mentor protege side. And these are the 2 different ways that you can qualify, 2 ways for a joint venture to qualify as small. Each joint venture member must qualify as small for the NAICS code assigned to the procurement. So for a joint venture under the SBA mentor protege program, the protege must be small for the NAICS code assigned to the procurement. So the mentor protege must be approved again prior to the date the offer is submitted. So has to be approved through SBA prior to that date. You can't go after the contract and come back after the fact and say, hey, we're doing this with these guys to make us qualify for that. It has to be prior to the date the offer is submitted. SBA only approves joint ventures for a sole source procurement prior to the award. All other joint ventures may be examined during the formal size determination. So that's on the SBA side of things. An 8A joint venture agreement, reading to you guys, 8A joint venture agreement is permissible only where an 8A concern lacks the necessary capacity to perform the contract on its own, and the agreement is fair and equitable and will be of substantial benefit to the 8A concern. However, where the SBA concludes that an 8A participant brings very little to the joint venture relationship in terms of resources and expertise other than its 8A status, SBA will not approve the joint venture to receive an 8A sole source contract award and will find the joint venture to be ineligible for a competitive 8A award if it is determined to be the apparent successful offer. So what that all long sentence there means essentially is, as we said before, that this partnership, both sides have to be bringing something to the table. It's not just for the benefit of creating opportunities to generate new revenue and nothing else. There's no growth. There's nothing happening beneficial to both sides outside of revenue, really. So real in short layman's terms, that's essentially what that long couple sentences is saying there, is that there needs to be benefit on both sides of this, and it's not a one-sided thing for one firm to be able to just continue to get 8A contracts because of this partnership. And these are just getting into the legal side of things, and that's what I have. So main part of that, the mentor protege side of things, and the opportunity to go after joint ventures as a mentor protege agreement or simply as a joint venture. Do we have any questions?
If you have a question, please put it in the chat. We'll give it a few minutes. Martin, I know this is probably not something that we discussed talking about, but can you give an update on the WOSB certifications, and kind of, is there going to be any improvement in the shortening of the review process for new WOSB applicants?
That I don't have an answer for that. Maybe Brian, I see you kind of nodding. Do you want to field that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, great question. That has had a backlog. The backlog has been rather lengthy, and so the last update that we got from our contracting team back in headquarters is that they have shifted some resources. The challenge that we had earlier this year that kind of threw a wrench in the whole thing too was what we went through with the having to do the social narrative on all our 8A participants, and so it shifted resources away from processing those applications in all facets, not just 8A, but the different certifications too. My understanding is we're past that big hurdle with the social narratives. They are allocating more resources to the process of applications, and they're trying to look at getting that timeline down substantially in this first quarter. So we'll see how that plays out, but we're hopeful that will transition to a faster turnaround.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Does anyone else have any questions? Martin, are these slides going to be available?
I can send them over to you and Shannon, and if anybody wants them, you can distribute them.
Great.
As you see fit.
And I just, as people are thinking of questions, I think that these as Martin said, joint ventures are great. They need to be mutual beneficial, right? They definitely need to be mutual beneficial. If you're looking at a mentor protege, that application process to be a mentor protege is a little bit onerous than just a regular joint venture, but the timeline does go out much longer. It's a 6-year commitment between the mentor and the protege, and it's designed to be just that, where the mentor is passing on knowledge, skills, and help build capacities. And so I think that's a great, if it's a fit for your firm or as a mentor or a protege, it's a great path to look at. If you're more interested in just creating a joint venture to help again, mutual beneficial procure sole source 8A contracts. That process is it's been streamlined in the last year. It's not as bad, and that actually comes directly to the district office, and we can help you through that. Whereas a mentor protege has to be approved by SBA headquarters. So depending on where you're looking at on the joint venture side of things, I encourage you to reach out and talk to us, and we can kind of help say, okay, this is what will be the best fit. But if it's just a joint venture, those are 2 years. Once they're in place, you get 2 years of going after sole source from the first award. And that process, and compared to years past, is been streamlined dramatically. We can get those joint ventures approved much quicker and help you look at procuring some sole source 8A contracts.
Patty
So
Cox from Missoula Apex has her hand up. Patty, you want to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, it'd be great. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Brian and Martin, for this presentation. We talked a lot about the joint venture part, but I wanted to just confirm on a mentor protege agreement that goes through and you apply for, that you don't have to have a joint venture, correct? You can have just the mentor protege agreement and then
Correct.
get those same benefits of the, financial assistance and business management assistance and, working on projects together or bidding on projects together. I just wanted to confirm that because I think that it's not every business in Montana or small businesses might not really want to do the 2 different agreements, basically the joint venture and the mentor protege.
Mm-hmm.
So there is options for that. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, you are correct on that. That they can be separate. And I think kind of going along the lines of what Brian is talking about as far as reaching out to us, one of those things is really what are they using that for and the time frame of it and the ease of application, right? So is this something that they really want to take advantage of over the next several years and get into this full mentor protege type of thing, where that process is going to take some more time for SBA to approve and go through that process? Or is just a joint venture where, like Brian said, that the streamlining on that has been cut down quite a bit, and it's something that maybe they want to use for this year or maybe next, or get into it this year, and they see something coming up where it might be beneficial next year, and it's a little easier for them to get into. I think that's really what it breaks down to, is what's the right fit for those organizations and what type of time commitment that they want to put into this on both sides, on the length of that relationship for one, and the length of how they want to take advantage of that program, right? So and getting into it. So the upfront side of things of getting into a relationship of like, hey, we heard there's something coming out in 6 months, and maybe not going through the full mentor protege type of thing. It probably isn't going to be right for that, but maybe there's an opportunity for that joint venture side of things. And yes, they can both be separate.
Thank you.
I had a question with the joint venture. There's probably not going to be as much financial assistance then, right? Since that's streamlined.
That'd be correct. Yeah. And that's going to be up to that other entity of what that relationship is going to look like there as well, where that mentor side of things, the intent of that is they're going to be fully invested in you being successful as a business. And that's where maybe that financial assistance piece comes into play when it comes to that.
Okay.
Anyone else? You can also reach out to Martin after this webinar is completed. His email is there and his phone number, and you can shoot him an email and ask him questions if you've thought of some after the fact. Martin, we appreciate you and Brian for putting on this webinar, and we appreciate your insight and your willingness to do this. And we thank you and everybody that joined today. We appreciate you joining our webinar. And if you would like to have a copy of the slides or the recording, reach out to us afterwards and we can get those to you. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks everyone for your time. Appreciate you putting this on, Lillian, and organizing it. Thank you so much.